All right, hello, thank you for coming this afternoon. My name is Victor Sira, and I'm transmitting from the printing room located in New York City. And for this first Printed Matter Virtual Art Book Fair, we are having this talk with Rony Maltz about Brazilian publications. And so this is the second. Yesterday we did the first. Today, Rony Maltz is assistant editor for Zoom magazine. Yesterday, he talked to us in that capacity. Also, he's a producer of book fairs in Rio. He's a curator and also a publisher. And his independent label is called lppress. And we're very happy. Welcome to the dieFirma print room, which is it's a physical space, it's a virtual and a conceptual space dedicated to the art of bookmaking. So it's a pleasure to have this conversation this afternoon with Rony. Welcome back, Rony. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, Rony is talking to us from Rio. I know from Sao Paulo.
Yes.
But he's from Rio.
I am originally from Rio, but I live in Sao Paulo now. And for the past 12 months, I live within my own apartment, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But so yes, I'm very glad to be here to talk about lppress, which is my small label with Carolina Catan, who is my partner. And lppress actually originally means possible books. In Portuguese, it means livros possíveis. So the idea, the premise of our small independent endeavor is really to make books regardless of the ideal conditions presented. So that's where we depart from. So I want to start right off the bat to show, since we're talking about zines, and shortly in a while, I'm gonna show a project there. It's one of the main projects that we developed in the past years, that it's all regarding zines. So I just want to show the first one I did, which is called Cold Blood. It's very short, so it won't take much of our time. So I just wanted to do that as a small introduction to my work. So we can see that it's a simple story, very simply told, and very cheaply printed as well. That's Cold Blood. That's my first one. I always like to start with this one.
And what year was that, Rony?
This is 2011.
2011. That's when lppress started.
No, actually, lppress started in 2015.
Okay.
So this is much later than I started making these little books, these zines.
Okay.
So I just wanted to show that so we can start a conversation about zines and the importance that this format have in our practice. In 2018, we did sort of a crazy project called 52 zines. Why it is crazy? We challenged ourselves to produce one photo book every week from the concept to the printed page throughout the whole year of 2018. So 52 weeks, we made 52 books. The idea was really to exercise the making more than wait for the idea to be perfect and ripe in our heads, and then to go on and produce like a big photo book. So we depart a lot from, there's a quote by Borges, the Argentinian writer that I love very much, Jorge Luis Borges, in which he says that instead of laboring on big lengthy novels, he preferred to work to depart from the premise that these works already exist, and then put out their resumes, their short synthesis, right? So that's why he labored on short stories and not big romances. So we like to think that the zine is sort of a short story before the romance. So it's not a lesser form. It's not a smaller form of art. It is also a photo book, but of course, it allows for independent publishers and bookmakers to work from a small investment and to begin putting out their ideas to, people around, and then start building a community, bring the work to photo book fairs, as we do. I also produced a photo book fair in Rio called Feira Urca. For some years, we did 5 editions. So the idea is to foster the community and foster this format as a way, especially for new independent authors and producers, to begin working with photo books and begin putting out their ideas.
I always, just a parenthesis, a comment about the zine, the short story form. I always look at it also as the way, it's almost like the short film for a filmmaker. Before you make a feature film, you use the zine to develop your language, to develop understanding of the printing page.
Yeah, and I know that you yourself, Victor, like to think of the book as a studio, right? I love this idea of thinking of the zine, thinking of the photo book as a studio itself, like a mobile studio that you can bring everywhere. So we like to work in this way as well. And I don't, just to disagree a little bit with you, I don't think necessarily that it is an art form that an author makes before making a large book. We see very well-established authors, like, for example, Alex Sof comes to mind, that they keep working on zines and putting out zines regardless of having other big projects and photo books. So I really think it's an ongoing practice, regardless of what stage in your career you are, being that as a rehearsal for a bigger work, or as a work that that is made to end up in a zine after all, that it fits better in a zine, right?
Excellent.
So I will now share my screen to show a little bit of these 52, some of these 52 zines that we did throughout 2008. Can you confirm that you see my shared screen now?
Yeah.
So now you're seeing a photo book called Lugar, Place. And this is the 4th one we made. Don't worry, I'm not gonna show the 52, I promise. But just a snippet of some of them. So you can see that they can depart from very simple ideas. In this one, well, I already photographed like chairs and couches wasted in the streets. And then for this zine, I just collected these hundreds of photographs like these that I had and edited in this photo book format. So many of these zines depart from our own archives or ideas that we already had, and then we realize, and then we go on to produce them in that given week. Other ones are made from scratch, like from brand new ideas. That's another one that it's made from photographs that we made from other books. The name is Fotos de Livros de Fotos, which is photos from photo books, photos taken from books of photos, right? And you probably can recognize many of the books that we took pictures of here. So we used to publish this in our profile in Instagram, which is @lppress. We used to publish, to post about these photo books that we take inspiration on, that we like very much. And then when this project came, we decided to bring these pictures together and try to edit a new work, a zine collecting these references. We can make this a game, right, Victor? You have to guess all the books that these photos belong to.
Yeah, so it's hardly to recognize some. And so but you always have parted from these premises of production, to produce zines, to produce a lot, no?
Well, yes, but that's contingent. What I mean is, I don't. The matter of quantity was never an issue. We didn't want to make that because we wanted to have a lot. We just wanted to put in practice something that I always talked a lot about in Photobook classes, and that we hold very dear, that is this idea that we should use the book format, especially the zine, to put out works. So you put out something, you see how it looks outside yourself, you allow it to exist outside yourself, and then you look at it, and then you understand a little bit better of the work, you understand a bit better of yourself. So that's the idea. It's like we challenge ourselves to put in practice this philosophy. So it was not really a matter of having a lot of books made. It was just like this, we're wondering if we can really do that, instead of just saying that the Photobooks is a very simple format, that the zine can be made in a week with very simple and cheap resources. We wanted to put that in practice. And it was very challenging, but it was very also rewarding to be able to, use this as a pretext to produce new work and to keep producing every week. And what we realized is that you do end up working a lot more, even if it is just a pretext. You end up doing stuff that you wouldn't otherwise. But many of these works, if we had an extra 1 or 2 or 3 years, we wouldn't turn these in other bigger, more, graded projects with more investment and larger photo books. Probably this wouldn't have been made at all. So this speaks a little bit of what I was saying earlier, that I don't think necessarily that the photo books is a step towards a bigger project. Sometimes it's, it's good existing all in itself. So this is one called Atafona, also made from photographs that I already had from previous projects. So this is about a city to the north of the state of Rio, which is disappearing by the force of the sea.
Mm. And this one we're looking are your zines or some different authors?
Yeah, these are all ours.
Okay.
This is all lppress. We do not differentiate. Some of them comes from Carol, my partner Carolina. Some come from my own pictures, my own ideas, and then she jumps on and we do it together. Okay, I see. Sometimes it's the other way around. And actually, I should say that for the zine William that I just showed, that it's sort of like a performance with the body of a dancer. That one was maybe photographed by another author, Viviane Giaquinta. But that's rare. In only a few of them, we used pictures from, like people we invited to participate, or we asked if we could use their pictures, and then we edited the work. Most of them are from our own pictures or pictures appropriated from the web, but all of them is our own editing. This one, Carolina is also a wedding photographer. So, for example, she had plenty of kisses photographed from the parties that she covers. So we did this one sort of also a kind of thinking of Andy Warhol as well. In Kiss, right? Mm-hmm. So for this one, we did not photograph. For example, we took all these pictures from protests that were going on all over the country to Marielle, mm-hmm. who was a congressman in Rio, brutally killed. Nowadays, it's been more than 1,000 days. She's been killed, and the case is still open. Nobody knows who ordered the murder. So she was turned into a symbol of, for not just women's fight for rights, but also against fascism, which is escalating all over the world and in Brazil especially. So all these marches and protests took the whole country, and we made blow-ups, I mean, from the pictures, from some of the pictures of these protests, and then we made this zine from it. Just want to show a couple.
And how large are the edition of these zines? How many you make of them?
They do not have a closed edition, which means that whenever we need, we publish more, we print more. So they are small originally. We make 5 or 10 for the first edition. But then as they are sold in Photobook fairs and other events, we make more, we just make more. So these are all from pictures from a big construction that was going on in Vitória of Petrobras, which is Brazil's oil company. So it's sort of a play with an archive. And then I'm going to show one last one, and from this I'm going to jump to another project. Let me just close this. So zines means signs. And these are, I will use as a trampoline to the other project that I want to speak next, which is Vila Autódromo. So this work is already around the pictures I made in Vila Autódromo, which is a neighborhood in the west zone of the city of Rio. And you can see that the name of this neighborhood, Vila Autódromo, doesn't appear in any of the signs, of the street signs around this place. So this is already a hint of the kind of place that we're talking about. So it's a place that it's disregarded by the public power, is disregarded by the state, that turn it into sort of a war zone and disputed territory in preparation for the 2014 World Cup and 2016 Olympic Games held in Rio. So I'm gonna unshare my screen so I can show this book for you live. I mean, as live as it gets. I came a little bit more prepared today, Victor. See this?
Oh, really? You're like, yeah.
But I don't know if this will work. Let's see. Don't know if we'll have enough distance.
I see. Wow.
I think it's okay, no?
So this book, well, you won't consider it a zine, or no? This is something.
Yeah, no. This. You can see that it's.
Oh, okay. I see.
It's a bit big. Yeah, it's another. So the spine is exposed, but these are
separate.
some,
yeah, group is separate. So in your analogy, this will be a series of short stories, no?
This one that I'm showing you?
Yeah, yeah.
No, this is a different thing. I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah, that zine that I just showed called Zines, it's part of the 52 Zines project.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And those pictures belong to the same space that we're talking about in this bigger project.
Okay.
So I'm just jumping from the 52 Zines to another project. But just to show also how we use very freely our archives in making those zines. Even though they belong to other projects, we don't see a problem in that. And we resignificate the pictures. We use the pictures in different projects. And eventually they acquire other meanings as well. So of course, you won't be able to read the texts, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the project while I slip through the pages. So for the past few years, and actually now we're 2021, so it's more than a few years past, but this was written like a few years back. So Rio de Janeiro has witnessed an accelerated process of urban transformations. whose most evident landmark is the city's preparation for the 2016 Olympic Games. This process and the conflicts it has provoked has generated a profusion of images put into circulation by the press, by political propaganda, by autonomous researchers, militants, and residents. Major constructions, demolitions, evictions, and protests for housing became common signs of everyday life in Rio, evoking comparisons with other periods of the city's history, such as the 1960s and early 20th century, also marked by turbulent remodeling of the urban space. Vila Autódromo is a visual and textual essay about this moment of the city from the experience of a small community that occupies a narrow area between the old Autodrome, today's Olympic Park, the Jacarepaguá Lagoon, and the avenues Salvador Allende and Ambassador Abelardo Bueno, two of the neighborhood's main freeways. From the 500 families that made up the original community, there is only about 20 left now. The initial project of the Olympic Park provided for the maintenance and redevelopment of Vila Autódromo as a social legacy of the Games. But the city council began to propose the removal of the residents to a housing complex erected in the region. Many rejected the change and came to elaborate an alternative project together with planners and researchers. Residents' resistance was reported in the national and international press, making the community a reference for other cases of evictions caused by constructions linked to the Games. Vila is a space where different ideas about the future of the city collide. So you can see there are many portraits of residents and former residents, and in the texts that of course you can't read here. They are put together especially by the testimonies of Maria da Penha, who is a community leader. She became actually a very important community leader for Vila Autódromo, and she was sort of the key, the person there who opened the doors of her own house and opened the doors of to other people's houses in the community and introduced us to this space. This project was made, the authors are myself, Rony, and Guilherme Freitas. I should say that the Guilherme is a journalist who did the texts, and the pictures are mine. And this book was selected for the Photobook Festival Kassel Award in 2019.
The Book Dummy Award in Kassel.
The Book Dummy Award, yes, and it won the 3rd place in this contest. So I'm not going to show the whole thing. It's quite big, but just so you have like a notion of the material. And also the kind of subject that interests us, because the next book that I'm going to talk about, it's also sort of related with the public's, the state's regard for the public. So let me put this away.
Yeah.
This was Vila Autódromo.
Vila Autódromo. So that was from 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Yeah,
2019.
So there's 3 authors, 3 photographers, and a journalist.
No, not 3. It's just from myself and Guilherme. Guilherme is a journalist, so he wrote the texts.
Okay.
And I took the photographs.
All right, excellent.
There are some archival material there as well. So some like 2 or 3 spreads are made up from video stills, videos published online by residents as they were in the process of being evicted, and some other images like that. But the majority of the pictures were made inside. The next project that I want to talk about is a book that we're about to release, actually. This book was also a very successful dummy. It circulated through several festivals, including the Kassel Photobook Festival Dummy Award. It was selected in the shortlist in 2019 as well. and plenty other festivals. It's called Seven Falls, Sete Quedas in Portuguese, by Shirlene Lini and Júlio Cardoso. So let me share my screen again here. Opa. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you the video where I'll talk about
it's working.
A little bit of this project that we're very proud about. Seven Falls. So you see that this is a very sort of a complex project materially as well. So combining their own photographs with newspaper articles and archival documents, the authors trace the story of the brutal kidnapping and murder of Ambassador José Jobim and the dubious investigation of the case, raising questions about state violence and the manipulation of public memory. In the photo book, these moments are represented by the construction of the Seven Falls hydroelectric plant during the government of João Goulart, and by the construction of the Itaipu plant during the dictatorship period that followed. This context serves as a backdrop for presenting the facts that culminated in the assassination of the ambassador. Only recently, in 2019, the case was reviewed and justice granted the ambassador's family the rectification of his death certificate from suicide to murder. So this is a sort of a classic of our dictatorship period, right? So this manipulating of documents, this manipulating of memory itself, this manipulating of public records. So the ambassador was beginning to revolve a big corruption case surrounding the construction of the power plant. And because of that, he was, quote unquote, disappeared and suicided, right? So he appeared after many days of disappearance, hang from a tree in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a neighborhood far away from where he lived. And of course, many years later, only that the state recognized that this was actually a crime, state crime. So
did they find out the reason why?
The reason was covering the corruption case behind the construction of the power plant. That's it. These are not necessarily very sophisticated people in their thought. So the guy was uncovering a corruption case and he was murdered for that, only that. And he was not anybody, he was an ambassador and a public figure. So only because of that, this became news and became a huge scandal. So many other people disappeared and was murdered and didn't leave any trace. And
so in this case, you guys find, talk about this project and talk to the authors and decide to publish it?
Yes. Well, actually, this project, the two authors, Júlio and Shirlene, they are archivists. They work with archive material. So they are not originally, they do not work primarily as photographers. And what I like a lot about it, let me share. Oh, it's here. So what I love about this project is the fact that the reunion of the documents really constituted the core of the project. So it was not just like, we did some very pretty photographs of this power plant and let's put it all together in a book and tell this story in parallel. It's not that. The documents themselves tell the story. So all this that I just read to you, it can be, it sort of becomes an investigation for the reader itself, himself or herself, and you can uncover the story through all the documents that had been previously secret, and other documents that, like press articles and newspaper articles and surrounding the case at the time and also nowadays after the reviewing of his death certificate. So it is a very solid narrative, very cleverly built around these documents and also using contemporary photographs that they did in location. As I said, it was a very successful dummy, and now, as we speak, actually this week, it is being printed. As you saw, there are many different parts for this book. It holds small inserts and annexes and zines. There's one zine actually within it. So it was a complex project to put together, but it's finally coming out now, and we'll be very proud to put out and talk more about that throughout this year. Another project, another photo book that we're about to release is a book by Joaquim Paiva that I also want to talk about. Joaquim is a photographer. He's also a collector, a very important collector here in Brazil. Most of his collections of his photographs and other artworks from his collection are housed in the Museum of Modern Art in Rio. And we are very proud to have made 3 of his books. I'm gonna very quickly show the 2 firsts that are from some years back, not many years, but I also want to show the project of the newest book that it's about to come out. There's not even a dummy yet, so this is brand new. Nobody had seen it, so I'm showing you here firsthand, Victor.
So it's just a PDF now?
Yeah.
Okay, PDF. Okay.
But firstly, since I have shared my screen, let me go ahead and show some of his other books. So this is Farce, Trick, Illusion. Farsa, Truque, Ilusões. Farce, Trick, Illusions, actually, in plural. And let me try to repeat this. This is okay. So this book is from pictures Joaquim took in Brasília, Caracas, and Ottawa, 3 of the places he lived between the years of 70 and 78. I should also have said that Joaquim used to be a diplomat, coincidentally, like José Jobim, right, from the previous book. So that's why he lived in many different places, including Brazil's capital, Brasília, city with which Joaquim has a very special relation. And the newest book that I'm about to show is all about Brasília. So he made these photo performances in the 70s. These are very in line with many of the sort of photographic work that was being produced during this time. And this book is an attempt to sew together all these different series into a coherent sequence, which is what a photo book is, after all, right? So this is Farce, Trick, Illusions, and you can see that towards the end,
I see. Yeah.
It gains a lot of hints to its materiality, something that Joaquim is very keen of. It also has, it is not a zine in terms of format, but it has a very zine-ish aesthetic, if you will.
Yeah, more like a pamphlet, like a catalog.
Yeah, it's very well.
So when do you start moving from zine to these more elaborated publications? I think this is offset printing, probably, no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Actually, this one was printed in the Indigo, the digital offset.
In the Indigo. Okay, so you did just 50 copies, 100 copies?
This is 300 copies.
200 copies. So it's a digital printing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me just confirm that. Actually, it's 500 copies.
500.
Wrong. Yeah, the other one is 300 copies, the one that I'm about to show now. So that's something that you're probably very used to there as well. No, Victor, these contemporary photo books, many times they are produced in relatively small editions, right?
Yeah,
so, as I see now, 500 copies of a photo book is not a big edition. It's not a small edition nowadays, how I feel. So that's what we tend to produce, is like editions of this size, and not much larger than that. So we don't have to hold a lot of books in our shelves. I mean, in our closets, right? There's not a lot of archived material. It is made to circulate, and we don't want to hold anything. And we don't want to have boxes with hundreds of books in our closets. And the idea is to make the least necessary and then make another one. That's how Joaquin feels as well, at least. So this is another one called 1927-1970. And I'm going to read this little text that you find here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually this one, which is in English, while I flip through a little bit. So these are Joaquin's words. This book is an homage to my mother. It emerged from the autobiographical and visual diaries I have been making since 1998. I soon realized that I almost always marked in my notebooks my mother's birthday, February 14th, and the date of her death, October 30th. Later, I added the photos of her and my father I took from a family album in 2002, black and white pictures in the midst of the fine and red earth of Brasilia, the city where I lived and worked for many years. Finally, I have included in this project the notebook in which my father declared his love for my mother, in pictures and words. The only object that was left to me of him, who died before I reached 3 years of age. With the passing of time and the number of diaries I have accumulated, I now have 154, I realized that as an artist, I should put this material together in a book of photographs. So the diary, these are several of his own diaries, and the notebook he refers to, his father's notebook he refers to, is also here. So it's this one with the brown cover. And what we did actually, as you can see, is pretty simple. We reproduced very well, the best way we could, the pages of the notebooks and the main pages of the diaries that refer to his mother, especially those that refer to her, the date of her death and her birthday. So this is a very beautiful notebook from his father. And here we have some final pages with the translations of the texts from the diaries in the notebook. This final series of photographs of his mother's portrait in Brazilia's red earth.
Yeah.
Right, so this was 1927, 1970.
So that one you guys published recently too?
Yeah, this one was published a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Sometimes I get lost because last year almost didn't count, right? So
okay,
it feels like 2019 was last year, but actually this book was published.
It's 2019?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
And now I'm going to share my screen again because I want to show this new unedited project by Joaquin. It's the new book that we're about to publish. And it is called Rodoviária de Brasília. The name is not final as well. So Brasilia bus terminal. Here we go. This is the Autódromo, Seven Falls, right, that we've seen. And now that's what I'm going to show. So you can see that he photographed in color film. Brasilia was inaugurated in 1960 to be the country's new capital. And I'm going to read the text in the first person again. So this is Joaquim's words. I lived there for 20 years in 4 different occasions, and I photographed the urban bus terminal from 1981 to 1984 during my second term. I prefer to photograph people and not necessarily architecture nor politics. I did it in color when most photographed in black and white, as if it were a film or a theater, a performance, a ballet. Photography is always a document, fiction, dream, mystery, beauty. José Medeiros, the great Brazilian photojournalist, told me, the gaze is who you are, where you come from, how you see life. It is the terminal station.
From what year are these pictures, Rony?
Between 81 and 84.
Wow.
So this is from the 80s. The city is very new, right? It was inaugurated. It had been inaugurated like not even 3 decades before that, in 1960 to be more precise. So all these people that you're seeing, pretty much none of them were Brazilians, right? They couldn't have been born there because the city was so new. So there was a great deal of hope associated with, you know, coming to a new city, try to establish life. So the city attracted lots of workers. Actually, there were public policies to attract workers to build the city. They were promised apartments in the main part of the city to go there. And then, of course, speculation, real estate speculation, pushed them off of the center of the city to the satellites. So all the satellite cities that surround Brasilia nowadays were originally formed by these workers who were pushed out of the main city by real estate speculation.
So there is favelas around Brasilia?
They're not necessarily favelas. I don't know if they're cities. They're like satellite cities. Brasilia is a planned city, so it's very logical and planned, right? In terms of urban planning itself. As you may know, Niemeyer, like the great Brazilian architect, he designed pretty much all of the city's buildings.
That's what I like about this photograph, because we used to see only the buildings.
Yeah. And Lúcio Costa, another architect, designed the urban plan of the city itself. But as you said, this is not about that. This is not about that Brasilia. It's a lot more about the people and encounters. And, you know, I see it a lot, as many of Joaquim's works, as a performance of the body in a space and looking around. Almost
and
like
he was working as a diplomat in the city, and then on the free time when he went to do this photograph.
Exactly. Yes. And
this is not the design of the book yet. You're developing the idea.
This is close to it. This is very close to the final.
So format. Panoramic.
Yeah. No. The format it's this. That's right. The sequence, I would say it's 95% ready. That's why I'm not going to show you to the end. I'm going to stop right here. Maybe I've shown too much already.
Okay. So I've been yeah.
I'll hear from Joaquim.
Yeah, totally. You're giving up his Well, tell him that, those are wonderful images. I mean, that's looking forward for that book. Really. And so when is that one coming? What is the title again in Portuguese?
Brasília Bus Terminal, Rodoviária de Brasília.
Okay.
So it's the urban bus terminal from the city.
Oh, I think you froze.
Hello, hello.
Hello? Okay, you're back. All right.
Oh, yeah.
You froze for a second there.
Oh, yeah, you too.
All right.
Yeah, I should say that it's raining here. So if something happens and my internet connection fall, just hold tight on your seat and I'll be back as soon as I can. Just a heads up.
No worries.
I said that in the beginning.
So okay, great. I mean, so thank you. Then, so this one is coming out by the end of this year, this book? You don't know yet?
No, it's coming out in a couple of months, tops.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's coming out still in the first semester.
The first semester, okay.
Yeah. Now I'm going to show a last project. Actually, I wasn't sure I had the time to show. It is also still a project. What I mean is that there's not a dummy yet. There's not a printed book yet, but it's by an author that I showed yesterday as well, Alessandra Sposetti. I showed her book Gilda. And now I'm going to show her latest project that is being produced with lppress, which is called Pasta Madre. Just a second. Here it is. Can you see it? Pasta Madre. So as I said yesterday, Alessandra works with cuisine. She's a cook and she teaches cooking as well. So much like what I said about Shirlene and Julio, I like these works with photo books that are coming from people that are not necessarily photographers. And I don't want to say, that's not saying lesser of them to state that. On the contrary, I think it's very interesting to see these perspectives that come from outside the photography world, outside the background that photographers used to have to construct narratives. So what I see is that the way how these authors think of the photo book format, it's not just like a collection of their best photographs. They really think through in putting together all kinds of information besides the photographs, like text and design and several layers of narrative in order to convey an idea. So differently from how many photographers see the photo book format, which is like a support and a window to show their photographs. So these authors, they think of the photo book in a way that I like to think as well, which is not necessarily like a portfolio of photographs, but really a space to articulate a more complex discourse using photographs, of course. So you can see that she combines some photographs of her trip to Italy, and then she'll get in the making of the bread itself with these professionals that she met in Italy. And I'm not going to give away a lot in terms of the ideas around the book. I mean, the construction of the concept around the book. But I'm just going to say that what I find most appealing in the way how Alessandra works is this combining of very seductive, interesting pictures, like really like which have a texture to them and make us want to, smell the stuff that we're seeing, make us want to feel the texture, of the stuff that we're seeing, and she combines that with also some other photographs that you know go to the other way, that they are disgusting, that are gross, and that kind of work as it's like almost as opposite as the food pictures, right? They work in terms of provoking disgust, provoking ill thoughts, and you know, like a disruption of the experience that we get from the food pictures. So this book, and now we begin to see where it is getting to. It is around a specific occasion, a specific fact from the war, where the city was bombed, and some people who worked with this within this universe of bread making died. And Alessandra relates like, oh, this is, so I'm gonna stop there. So Alessandra constructs this this relation between bread making and then like the dough and the way how the bread is food, and how also the, you know, the destruction of this structure of this, you know, economy, that it's all about bringing stuff to life. So it starts with the pasta madre, which is like the original dough for making bread, which is an alive thing, right? It has good bacteria and a lot of stuff that really makes for, it's like kind of the core of the bread. So it's a lot, so she relates a lot this process of making with the process of destruction that the city that revolves around the economy of the bread was submitted to, or was subjected to, right? So yeah, that's pasta madre was the last one that I wanted to show you here. That's coming up,
no? That's something you guys are editing and designing at the moment.
Yeah, that's also coming up in the first semester.
So, all right, do you have more projects? Or?
Not right here. No,
not
that's
right
that's what I separated to show you now. And
so if somebody wants to buy any of these books, where should they go? Do you have a link? Yeah. Can you post a link on the chat?
Yeah, I should put a link to lppress actually in our email.
So let's share that.
So we're in Q&A, right?
Yeah, no, Q&A or
chat?
The chat, yes, use the chat.
So that's our website. And as I said, we usually sell our books in Photobook fairs and other kind of events like that throughout the year. Of course, last year was a disaster in terms of that. We also sell them online. There's not, it's like, we do not like the virtual store. It doesn't work very well for us. So there's not like established store that you can go there.
One second, Rony, that they say they cannot see the link.
Oh.
So maybe on the Q&A, I don't know if we can.
Send to all attendees. Okay. Maybe if you open a question in the Q&A, then I can answer with the links.
Yeah, let me see.
But what I was saying is that you can reach us through our email, and then we go from there. It's not like a virtual store where you can do everything by yourself online.
Yeah, I don't see why we cannot get it. And let me write it myself. Let me see.
Answering to Shiori, I did write to all panelists, so I don't know why.
Okay, so we got a answer. Now you can answer and send the link. Thank you.
Is it there? Okay. So the first one is our website, lppress.org. And the second one is our email. You will reach me directly.
And so let me ask you a question, just to have a sense. How is the bookstores for these books in Rio and Sao Paulo, who are the big cities? Do you have places that distribute independent publishers like you?
There are not many places, actually. We do have a lot of independent small labels like LP Press. There are a lot of people making photo books. They are not necessarily stores. They struggle as we do with distribution, of course. Many of them, as ourselves, distribute our books mainly through these events. And there are few places that are coming up specialized in the photo book. Of course, as I said yesterday, the Moreira Salles Institute itself is a hub for this kind of thing. So it has a small bookstore inside the cultural center that sells a lot of photography books. There's a store / gallery / small label called Lovely House, which I'll put here Lovely House. If you type it on Google, I'm sure it will come out, Lovely House, São Paulo. And they have they remind me a lot, Victor, of Dashwood Books, actually, because they have like this very small space, very cozy, and it's mainly, but they have a lot of good photo books because their strength is curating. So it's not like they have everything, but what they have is what they like. And that's what they invest in. So they have some of our books there as well. They work with a small number of copies. So you send them like 4 or 5 copies of a book, and then if it sells well, they will ask for more. There's a commission, of course. So not differently from how these places work there in New York as well.
Yeah. And I had a question for you. And the book we saw, let me see if I had the title here. Villa Autodromo, no? Villa Autodromo. Is now published, or is still a maquette? It's still a dummy?
No, it's still just a dummy.
It's still a dummy.
Yeah. If anyone out there hearing us are interested in publishing Villa Autodromo, we will be most glad. It's just that's what we said before. Like, also, it's not like we're going after it with our strengths, like trying to publish it. This book, we are very satisfied with the way how this book, even the dummy, circulated, because, as I said, it got 3rd place in the Castle Dummy Book Award. So it went to several, more than 10 festivals in Europe. It was seen in some festivals here in Brazil as well. And of course, we would like to publish, but we struggle as everybody else with financing this kind of big project. It's not like publishing a zine, right? So that hasn't happened yet. Also, this project specifically has some limitations in the array of options that we have in terms of gathering resources, because as it is a project very critical to the Rio's government and to the state, we didn't want to ask their money, right? We didn't want to put it in any public call for projects. And there are many public calls, and there are many, well, not as much as it should, but there are some.
Yeah, I understand. You didn't want to use the money of the city.
Yeah, exactly. There are some sponsoring coming from the state of Rio, from the city of Rio, and we don't feel like we should go after these resources. So yeah, from the get-go, we knew that this was going to be a hard one to publish in terms of like a big edition.
So what is let's open it. Anyone out there has a question for Rony? You can post it on the Q&A. If anybody wants to send information you would like to have. Let's see.
We can't see people who are watching us, can we?
I can see the list of people.
Oh, okay.
You know, we can. They can speak if they want to. If anybody raise their hand.
Just curious.
All right. So what is to finish? What is next for lppress? What is next for you guys? After we're going from this lockdown. How is Brazil now? Are you guys emerging from the lockdown? Do you think it's going to take a while?
No.
What is it for you guys?
We couldn't be worse in terms of the pandemic right now here. So the numbers are as bad as the peak of the pandemic last year. Actually, we are in a new peak. So I'm sorry, but I don't have any optimistic side to this story.
But in terms of publishing, you had 2 books coming out, no? Yes, you had 2 great books coming out. Alexandra's book and the Bus Terminal.
Yeah, there are 3 books actually. Alessandra's book, Pasta Madre. There is Joaquim's book from the Bus Terminal, and Seven Falls as well, the book from Julio and Shirlene. So it's not little work. So what's coming up for us, at least in this first semester, is working on these projects, which take a lot of, gladly, it takes a lot of our time and energy, but that's how we like to work. We are a small label, it's just a couple of people, so we give very personal attention to our projects. Everything is made literally by us. It's not like a huge or any crew working on the books. Nothing is, is given to third parties. So that's the way how we like to work, to take the projects very close to us. So that's why we only work on projects that are, effectively close to us, that we feel like we really can give a contribution, and that we feel excited about, and that we're psyched to put out. So that's kind of relates back to the beginning of the talk with, like this personal touch and this intimacy that comes, especially with the zine making, right? Like you feel that you're closer to the author. It's very empathic. It's very, nice, unpretentious. So like we like to maintain this spirit in all our collaborations.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Rony. I think we do great presentations, and looking forward to working with you in the future, and we keep talking about this very interesting subject. I mean, thank you for the
you know that's what we love as well. We are fascinated by all that, the Photobook universe. So there are always other things coming up. So anytime you want to chat, let's
definitely. So we're gonna end it here, and thank you everybody for coming. Please go to the New York Print and Matters virtual book fairs. Check out all the books. There's so many great books, and thank you for coming again. Thanks for the support. All right, Rony, thank you. Talk to you soon.